Miami, you still want Boston? Or what, Miami fans? What's going on here? Welcome to Titletown Talk. My name is Jackson Tolliver. What a glorious day for the Boston Celtics. What a glorious weekend for Boston sports. The Bruins win last night. The Red Sox somehow go out in Pittsburgh and sweep the Pirates. Mad stuff. Insane stuff. The Revolution may have lost, but who cares? Who cares? After this weekend you've had, if you could pick one team to lose, you'd pick the rest because they suck anyway. Caleb Porter's an absolute bum. We'll get into all this stuff. I have Danielle DuBois coming on the pod today to talk Bruins, our de facto Bruins correspondent here on Titletown Talk. So she's going to enlighten us. But we got to start with the Boston Celtics getting a 20-point victory, 114-94 over their, rivals now, their recent postseason rivals, the Miami Heat, a banged-up Miami Heat. Now, I mentioned last time, I didn't think the Heat would win that game against the Bulls, but the Bulls just came out and they just didn't want it, frankly. I think they wanted that lottery pick. They just were asleep the whole time. The Heat clobbered them. Miami fans in the stands chanting, "We want Boston." It would be tough to keep making that argument as a Miami Heat fan after this display. I saw an Instagram comment that made me laugh. The narrative from Heat fans changed from "we want Boston" to "you're lucky we're injured" very quick. This was just embarrassing from the start. I was getting fired up. I believe Boston started on a 14-0 run in that first quarter before Miami was even able to score. Eventually it was 17-2, I believe, was their biggest lead in the first. Now Miami was able to cut that down in the first quarter, which ended 26-21. Celtics beat the Heat by 10. They were up 15 at half. They beat them by 10 in the second quarter. And in the third quarter, they just blew them out by 17. It was a very bad deficit going into the fourth quarter. Now, in that fourth quarter, Miami was able to make a little bit of a run. They actually beat the Celtics, outscored them by 12 in that quarter. But that's what it took for a 20-point loss to not be a 30-point loss. The Celtics will take it. A win is a win. There's a lot to get into here. First off, Jason Tatum. Let's start at the top. Triple-double, his first ever postseason triple-double. He had 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. It wasn't the best game from Tatum, I will say. Just 1 for 8 from 3, 7 for 18 from the field. Those aren't great stats. But if a bad Tatum game ends with him having a triple-double, you take that, right? This is a new brand of Jason Tatum that we are not used to seeing. We saw it a little bit last year. He's definitely been getting better as time has went on, but the old Jason Tatum does not get a triple-double. He doesn't even come close to 10 assists. This may be the best playmaking game I've seen from Tatum. It's definitely the best playmaking game I've seen him score in the postseason, seen him record rather in the postseason. He was really, really dishing it tonight. Selfless basketball. Love to see it from Tatum. So regardless of his poor shooting performance, he was able to still be the most impactful player on the court. He had some great defensive plays. He had 2 steals. He was really helping out when they would blitz Tyler Hero, who had a miserable game. The Celtics were double teaming him on a lot of possessions, which is really throwing him off. So Tatum was a big part of that. He had 2 steals. I believe both of them were on Tyler Hero. Just 3 turnovers for a guy who's handling the ball that much. You live with that. You'd live more if it was 1 or 2, but 3 turnovers, that's not so bad. He was fantastic. I hope he's okay. There was a moment late in the fourth quarter where Caleb Martin had a dirty play, which is the embodiment of Heat culture. Try to get the other team injured. That may sound salty of me, but I'm so serious. Like, that is what the Heat players do. They're a dirty team. There were a few plays during this game where I'm like, that's a dirty play. Bam Adebayo with the moving screen on Derek White. Nikola Jovic getting up, slapping the crap out of Porzingis' hand as he's letting that 3 go. He was a little bit shaken up after that. But this Caleb Martin play on Tatum was egregious. The league should probably look into this. I would look into it if I was the league, because down 20 points with like a minute and a half to go in the fourth, there's no need for all that. He wasn't even looking at the ball. That's a dirty play. And Tatum, credit to him, just walked away. Brown and Porzingis getting fired up. I love that. Porzingis after the game saying he doesn't care about Bam Adebayo. I love that. Joe Mazzulla saying he's fired up seeing Tatum in that situation. He was excited to see what was going to happen. Love it. He's a psychopath. I love that from Joe Mazzulla. So I like the way that the team responded. Tatum hit his free throws. Great. You move on, but you remember that and you keep it in the back of your mind as you have 3 more wins to go against this team. I think the Celtics will really try to go after Caleb Martin. And, if JB gets an opportunity to throw it down on his head, I wouldn't be surprised. That's all I'm going to say. I would not be surprised. Let's keep going down the line. Kristaps Porzingis, I would say, was the second best player in this game and really showed how much of an advantage he provides this Celtics team. 18 points, 7 for 13 shooting, 4 for 8 from 3. Did his job perfectly. Just 4 boards. I mean, Tatum and Holiday both got more boards than Porzingis, so he could still work on that aspect of it. But you're not going to complain with a performance like this. 2 blocks, 1 steal, just 2 turnovers. This was great all around from KP. I mean, they just use him so well. He was hunting mismatches. He did a decent job on Adebayo, all things considered. Adebayo was the highest scorer for the Heat, but I thought KP did a decent job containing him. They were basically funneling their entire offense through Bam because nothing else was really working besides Jaquez and besides DeLon Wright, funny enough, who hit 5 of 5 threes in that fourth quarter to make that Miami Heat run, so he'll probably get more minutes in Game 2. I would watch for that. But yeah, I thought Kristaps Porzingis did a decent job, held Bam to just 24 points on 10 for 18 shooting. He was guarding him for the majority of that game. So that's decent. I like that. Jaylen Brown, 50% from the field, 6 for 12, 3 for 5 from 3, and 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists. He was great too. I really liked his intensity. He was out from the jump, just going for it. I thought he was really good defensively as well. Derek White, 20 points, actually the second highest scorer on the Celtics team. He went 4 for 8 from 3, 6 for 10 from the field, just doing his job. I felt like he was quiet at first in that first half, but he was really good down the stretch, hitting some clutch shots for the Celtics. Also 4 for 4 from the line, getting there and making those shots count. He had 1 block, keeping up that block streak that he has. Obviously, he led in blocks for guards in the regular season, so you expect him to get a block or 2 per game. And Drew Holiday didn't really do much on the scoring column. He had 2 threes, couldn't hit any other shots, but 7 rebounds for a guard. You love to see that. 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Love it. All around from the starters, great. Derek White with a plus 24 in this plus minus, keeping up that great net rating that we've seen from Derek White throughout the year. Sam Hauser got the Celtics out of a jam when their offense was going a little bit stale in that first quarter. He came on, he hit 4 threes in the first half. That proved to be a huge jumping off point for the Celtics. Al Horford, 4 for 8 from the field, 10 points, 7 boards. And Peyton Pritchard with some energy, just 3 for 7 from the field, 8 points. But he had 4 rebounds and 5 assists in 24 minutes, and that was the entirety of the Celtics rotation. Great job from top to bottom. All 8 guys did a great job. And I wish you could have seen some of those bench guys down the stretch in the fourth quarter, but the Heat did eventually cut that lead to 15 with like 4 minutes to go, so you don't want to take out your starters in that situation. But I will be really happy if the Celtics can escape this series quickly. I thought today it was very apparent that this Heat team don't have what it takes to win the series. I think they do have what it takes to win a game or 2, and that would be a bad result for the Celtics if they beat them in 6. This should be a sweep. I'm just going to state it like it is. This should be a sweep. There's no Jimmy Butler. There's no Josh Richardson. There's no Terry Rozier. This should be a sweep. There's like barely any ball handling going on for the Miami Heat. Until DeLon Wright came on, he did pretty good. Tyler Hero is not a ball handler. He's not a 1A in terms of a guard. Terry Rozier was supposed to be their ball handler, and it's a bummer that he's gone for them. He might be back, maybe. I think they said he was week to week, so I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't count on him or Butler coming back, but it would definitely help a lot if he could. The guy I want to give the biggest shout out to on the Heat is Jaime Jaquez Jr. Shot 50% from the field. He is a really, really solid player. He's got a lot of hustle, physicality. He plays really, really good basketball, especially for his postseason debut, if you don't count the play-in tournament. He's obviously a rookie. This was not a rookie-type game. Shooting 50% in 36 minutes for 16 points. That's not a rookie game. That's a really, really impressive showing. He did not quit either. He made some great hustle plays. So, yeah, I was impressed with him. Tyler Hero, 4 for 13. Just 11 points. It sucks when you have to have Tyler Hero be your best player, and I hate Tyler Hero. I hate him. I think he's such a little snot. Ever since he got drafted to the Heat, one pick before the Celtics were going to take him, he's like, yeah, I'm happy I ended up here and not there. Shut up. He is one of those guys where when the Celtics win banner 18, I just want to like look back at him saying that and just, I will feel so good. I will feel so good about the Celtics beating this Heat team, shutting them up, hopefully ending this variation of the Heat team. Maybe they go out and get Dame this summer. If the Bucks go out in the first round, maybe Tyler Hero's gone. I don't think they move on from Bam or Jimmy, but a lot of, they got to get some new pieces in here because this isn't working. You can't just limp through the regular season as they've done. Even though it worked out last year, it's not going to work every year. They limp through the regular season again, and this is what happens. You have to play the Boston Celtics, arguably a top 5 roster the Boston Celtics have ever been. This is what you got to do. Sorry, you should have tried a little harder. So this is where we're at now. I thought today's game was great. I thought it was a marvelous display, top to bottom from the Celtics. I was really happy with it. And, now you got to go out and do it again. It's going to be tough to, bottle up that energy and keep it for an entire series. But that's the question going forward is which version of the Celtics are you going to see? Are you going to see the Celtics that you saw today that go out and dominate and come out with crazy energy from the jump? Or are you going to see the Celtics that we saw, in the last couple weeks of the season where they, in that situation, they didn't have anything to play for. Now they have everything to play for. But are they going to come out sort of lethargic, not take their opponents as seriously? You have to have fingers crossed that that doesn't happen. I anticipate another hefty win by the Celtics on Wednesday night. I don't see why they wouldn't do it. I think they'll come back. I just don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think Miami will take one of either game 3 or 4, and the Celtics finish it up at home. I don't know what day that would be. Next week for sure, because they play on Wednesday, Saturday, and then Monday. So I think it would be next Wednesday, I want to say, is when the Celtics would be back in the Garden and hopefully can put the finishing touches on the series. Or hopefully I'm wrong and they bang it out in 4. I just don't see, this Heat team isn't going to lay down and take it for sure. They're going to keep that fight up. You got to give them that credit. They keep playing until the bitter end. Spoelstra's a great coach. He has these guys really motivated, especially the bench players. I thought the bench unit today for the Heat was really good overall, besides Highsmith, who dropped a dud, 0 for 4 from the field. DeLon Wright and Kevin Love, I thought, were really solid. And like I said, expect DeLon Wright. I wouldn't be surprised if he started next game. Expect DeLon Wright to have a bigger impact because he was really top to bottom. Bam Adebayo and DeLon Wright are the only positives that you can take away from this game for the Heat. And on the Celtics, it's you can take a positive away from everyone. Everyone did good on the team. So hopefully they can keep that up. Hopefully next game will be even more of a blowout. We can see some Xavier Tillman minutes. I love Xavier Tillman. So this is a great showing from the Celtics to really cap off a great weekend for Boston sports. So let's move into last night when the playoff victories began. I have Danielle DuBois. Here it is. All right, I'm now here with our de facto Bruins correspondent, Danielle DuBois, here to talk about the big Bruins victory in Game 1. Danielle, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk some Bruins here.
It's tough to be sad after this weekend that we've had here in
Oh,
Boston,
for
for
sure.
sure.
It's been a good Boston weekend.
Yeah, everything's going well. Let's just jump right into it here. Let's talk about what you saw. Obviously, Jake DeBrusk is the star of this game to me. Beecher scoring his debut playoff goal. Swayman doing a great job in net, holding them to just 1 goal, the number 1 ranked offense in the NHL. What stood out to you in this game that you thought, okay, this is really good hockey?
First of all, like you said, Jeremy Swayman. I was a little bit concerned going into this game because Swayman, since the All-Star break, hasn't been himself. He's been all right, but he wasn't as good as he was the first half of the season because the first half of the season, he was lights out, one of the best goalies, if not the best goalie in the NHL. And then that kind of switched and Olmark took over, which is great. That's what happens when you have 2 of the best goalies in the league. However, I was a little bit concerned when they said Swayman is starting Game 1. However, his record against the Leafs has been incredible this season. He hasn't lost a game to them. So at the same time, I had that going against me as well. So I was very impressed to see the performance he put up, only allowing 1 goal against this Leafs team with Austin Matthews was very impressive. And we can only hope that that keeps up because that's going to be a saving grace for us throughout this series.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Ullmark starting in the first game. I said that last time. I thought it was going to be Ullmark. I would have preferred it to be Ullmark. Is what I was saying. I want it to be Ullmark, but Swayman came out and really surprised me. Made some good saves too. Toronto, I believe, had more shots on goal. Had more chances. I feel like That was a game that you could argue Toronto maybe deserved to win, but the Bruins just really capitalized on their chances. I thought that what little chances there were compared to Toronto, they just capitalized. They did great. I'm a little concerned if I had to nitpick that Pastrnak didn't score and that Marchand, his production has also dwindled as we've gone to the end of the season here. Is that something that concerns you at all with those two guys specifically?
A little bit, but at the same time, we saw Marchand get 2 assists. We saw Pasta get 1 assist. So while they're not necessarily scoring goals, which we're used to and we like to see, they're still being productive on the ice, which I like. I felt like Marchand didn't have his best performance yesterday. I felt like he seemed invisible on the ice at times, but those 2 assists, I mean, they clearly stood out. He connected with Jake DeBrusk multiple times. It seemed to be working. They seemed to be clicking. So if that's the way that he gets on the point sheet and helps our team, then I'm not going to complain too much about it. So
Yeah, I think it's tough to complain about last night's, a big 5-1 victory. Obviously last year the Bruins won game 1, and I hate to bring up last year. How did they avoid the pitfall that they fell in where I think they got a little bit too comfortable after they won that first game? Uh what do they have to do to really just keep their foot on the gas and, keep racking up these wins?
I think last year they definitely did get comfortable, like you're saying. And I think their defense is what really was the problem. They started to slack off defensively. We saw Omar dealing with an injury at the same time. So between those two combinations, there was not much stopping those Florida Panthers. So this year, I think they're learning from those mistakes. They're going to play whoever is the best goalie at the time and whoever is healthy. If for some reason Swayman gets hurt, then Olmark will be stepping up. They're not going to do that again. But definitely this defense. And while we did hold Toronto to 1 point yesterday, and that's amazing, we need to make sure that we continue to block off Matthews, because if you block him off, there's not many other goal scorers for them, especially with Nylander, who wasn't playing this game 1. I don't know what his outlook is for the next game, but if we can make sure to lock down Matthews and that defense make sure to stay hot, because it was questionable at times throughout this game. While we did only allow 1 point, it was not the best defense we've seen all season. So I think they just got lucky that they're playing against a weaker offense yesterday.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been a weaker offense. I thought they just weren't, their shots just weren't connecting. And credit to Swayman also for just having a great presence. Had some really good saves, I thought, last night. I thought he played really well. And on that note, there's been a lot of discussion about, are they going to switch out the goalie every game? After this performance with Swayman, would you rather see him in net again tomorrow night, or do you want them to switch tomorrow night to Olmark?
I'd like to see Swayman again. It is very hard to sustain a two goalie type scheme in the
Tandem, yeah.
playoffs. And I think while Swayman's hot, don't let your foot off the pedal. I think Swayman is a goalie who does better when he is more active. Same with the entire Bruins team. They do way better by only taking a day off instead of 2 or 3. So I think keep with Swayman. And if for some reason he has an awful performance, it's still early, 1-1. You can come back from that. You can easily win a series from 1-1. So it's not too early to figure that out. So
Yeah, that was my logic as well. I think it's your spot until you lose it. But I also like, from what I've heard and from what, the buzz has been, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Allmark tomorrow, just because they did it, throughout the whole regular season. But like you said, Swayman has been good against the Leafs this year. He was great last night. So I want him to stay in net. I just don't know if that's what they're going to do. It's such a clear advantage to me, the goaltending difference between these two teams. And why would you rock the boat if Swayman, did what he did last night, got you out of a game where Toronto got more shots off than you and convincingly got you out of that game, because the offense also was able to just click so well. What did you think about the lines last night? Is there anything you would change in that regard?
personally, I wouldn't change any of the lines just right now. I think they've been playing with the lines the entire season, but some reason yesterday's lines really clicked, and I think we saw some of that pairings throughout the season, and I really liked how everybody worked together. I think DeBrusk working with Marchand is a great placement for him because it gives him some of that veteran leadership that he kind of needs, even though he's been in the league for so long. He hasn't had the best season. We all know it. So having a guy like Brad on his line to help him out, to give him those 2 assists, I think were definitely the game changer for this game. Also, just some of the younger guys like Jesper and Beecher, Jesper and Beecher together, I love that combination. That goal that Beecher had was, first of all, beautiful. Congrats to him. It was
Yeah.
amazing. But Jesper saw that opportunity and connected with him right in front of the goal. They've been seeing those younger players have been working together so well throughout the series and throughout the year. So I'm hoping to see some of those younger guys still continue to work together.
Yeah, I think that's so important because everyone said, at the beginning of the season, the Bruins were losing so much depth. And obviously, it's tough when you lose Bergeron, who's been your best player for 2 decades now. I mean, besides maybe Pasta at some points and later on in his career. But that's been the guy on the Bruins for, 2 decades. And you're losing him, you're losing Krejci. So I think a lot of people were concerned about the depth for the Bruins. But the young guys, I thought, have really filled in well between Jesper Boqvist, Beecher, Brazo when he's been available. Hopefully he comes back soon as well. So yeah, I agree with you. I've been really impressed with the young guys on this Bruins roster, and I hope that they can continue to keep up that momentum. I don't want to look ahead too much, but between the Panthers and the Lightning, who would you rather see round two? Because the Bruins have been pretty good against the Panthers this year.
I would rather see the Panthers, while it is sore from last year, and I feel like a lot of Bruins fans there would be a little bit concerned. We have had such a great track record for them, and we figured them out. They have a scheme that they do every single game, and once you figure that out and lock them down, you can get past them easily. Tampa Bay in the playoffs is a completely different beast. I never want to face Tampa Bay in the playoffs because they've been built for playoff hockey since 2019. So, despite them not having their best year, I still don't want to face them in the playoffs because I know it would end in a pretty ugly loss for us. But Panthers, I think there's a shot.
Yeah, and I think the Bruins would have that extra motivation for the Panthers as well, similar to, the Celtics playing the Heat in the first round, right? Like those are the guys that ended your season last year. For the Bruins, it's even worse because they lost in the first round after their historically great season. So I think they definitely have that chip on their shoulder, something to prove. But obviously, we got to stay focused on this round that we're in right now. This series has gone to 7. I believe it was the last 4 times that they've played in the playoffs. You think there's a chance that we see that again, or does last night do enough to convince you that the Bruins have this matchup pretty handedly?
Based off of history and based off of being a Bruins fan for the past so many years of my life, game 7 is very probable because the Bruins do get comfortable. We are very good at blowing leads in series and in games. And so both of those things could go against us. But I think 6 is a little bit more, I have a more likelihood of a game 6 than game 7. And I hope not for my own sanity.
Yeah, that was tough last year when it just kept going. It just kept going until it was 7, and then it was obviously a brutal result. Um, if somehow the Bruins lose this series, do you think Jim Montgomery is out as the head coach of the Bruins?
I don't think so. I don't think what Montgomery has been doing is the problem with the Bruins. I think there are some different ownership problems that are a part of it. Instead, I think Montgomery, he knows these guys. He's been working so well with them. He's clicked with them since day one, we saw. And so I think him making the team with such the roster that we have, it shouldn't be as talented and as good as they are. And however, we came out to be one of the best teams in the NHL with some of these younger guys, with the depth that we didn't think we were going to have. So I think him playing around with the lines so much, it wasn't really traditional. We didn't see Cassidy do that all the time, but it seems to be working for the Bruins. And I don't think Montgomery is to blame for their first round exit if that were to happen.
Yeah, it's tough because he's had so much regular season success, but basically no playoff success so far. So if this were to end another first round dud, I think it'd be on the table. But then again, as you said, he's done a great job with what he's got, and these young guys have really stepped up. I think the future is looking so bright because you're going to lose Marchand maybe this year, maybe next year. But you have all these guys to build a really solid roster around now. I'm glad they ended up keeping DeBrusque. I'm glad that they still have that, core group of guys that are in or entering their prime, between Pasta and DeBrusque and McAvoy, guys that you're going to want to have around for a long time. So I think keep them as well, because you want to keep building that. Give me a score prediction for tomorrow before I let you go.
Score prediction, I'm gonna do 4-2 Bruins. A
4-2.
little
And
bit
you but
more higher scoring for
and
the
and you think the
Blues.
series is going to end in 6 or 7?
I think so.
So do they lose
I
the two on
think
the road, 3 and 4?
I think I think
Like
it'll
where do they
be
lose?
lose. I think they lose one on the road. I think they'll
Okay.
go up to 2-0 and then they lose the first one on the road
Come back to Boston
2-1,
3-1
3-1. Yeah.
and
I
then
think
lose
somewhere
that
in
one
those
at home
lines. I would not be surprised. Yeah.
and then win either on the road in game 6 or they force a game 7
hmm
back at home. But they
That's
win
what
either
my
way.
prediction is. I think
All right.
so, but
That sounds like a very scary time. Scary time if it goes to 6 or 7. Well, hopefully you are correct and the Bruins can get another result tomorrow. Thanks so much for coming on. As always, Danielle, it's a pleasure to have you.
thanks for having me.
So Boston is 2-0 in the playoffs. 30 more games to go, 30 more wins to go, rather, until we get our double duck boat parade. In all seriousness, I think both these teams have a chance. I think the Celtics have a better chance, but if the Bruins keep playing like they did last night, don't be surprised if they make that Stanley Cup Finals. Finally win one for the first time in 13 years. That's a long time in Boston. And the Celtics even longer. They've gone 17 years. That's also a long time in Boston. Hopefully both of them can snap the skid this year and take home the ultimate prize. Let's talk about the Red Sox. I was really surprised. They went to Pittsburgh and swept the Pirates. I didn't give them a fighting chance because of how they played against Cleveland, all these injuries that they have going on. But for some reason, this team just turns into a different squad on the road. This brings their road record up to 10-3 on the year, versus at home they're 3-7. So I don't know what it is. They just can't do it at home this year. I don't know why, but let's go through game by game and break this down. First game, this was without Devers. Ref Snyder was able to come back. Obviously, Tyler O'Neill still dealing with that injury that he sustained when he collided heads with Devers in the Marathon Monday game. He should be back Tuesday. Devers should be back Tuesday. So in this game, we had 4 home runs. Abreu, Ref Snyder, Casas, and Rafaela. That's just how it happened. I don't know why. Willie Abreu, 3 hits. He looks really good all of a sudden after not really starting the season off that well. He's made some great defensive plays recently. But, I mean, you can't argue with an 8-1 victory. Brian Bayo was great. He did really good against this team. He had, 7 strikeouts? Not bad. And Brian Bayo, to me, weirdly enough, he has been the starter that I've been the least confident in out of the 4 guys that are supposed to be starters. Obviously, 2 of them are injured right now. But he came in and did really well against this team. Just gave up 1 hit. That's fine. That's a great showing against a Pittsburgh team that was clearly lackluster compared to the Red Sox, rather. Then they go in again on Saturday. The final score was 4-2 yesterday. Masataka Yoshida with the home run, the only one of the game. Love seeing him pop off. For some reason, he wasn't in the lineup today, which was a bit bizarre. Maybe he needed a day off. Maybe he was dealing with something secretly. But this was a good one. Casas obviously was not in this game. He picked up an injury. That's not good. He was placed on the 10-day IL today. He says he's in a lot of pain. He's going to go through a MRI when they get back to Boston. Hopefully everything is okay with him because he's obviously a crucial player for this Red Sox team, which has just been battling injuries from opening day, unfortunately. Not actually opening day, from the second week of the season when Story went down. They've been battling injuries ever since. It's been a tough go, for sure. And you got guys like Bobby Dahlbeck, who's going to have to fill in for you. Bobby Dahlbeck has been bad, by the way. He's been really bad. He doesn't look good at all. 4-2. This was pretty good from Cutter Crawford. 6 strikeouts. He did have an error, but I don't blame him for it. Masataka Yoshida with the home run, as I mentioned. It was actually a leadoff triple by Jarren Duran to open up the scoring. He was driven in by Abreu. So, again, a win's a win. This one was a little bit less decisive. And then you had today, which, frankly enough, pretty much no one was watching. I had it on a second monitor. But this was 6-1. Another great showing from the Red Sox. No home runs. They didn't need it. They got, some pretty good doubles. I believe who was it that had the single? It was Abreu again. Abreu with 2 RBI and McGuire with 2 RBI and Ref Snyder with another. So, like I mentioned before, another convincing win. Josh Winkowski was the starter today, which is very bizarre. The Red Sox went with more of like a bullpen rotation type style today. You had 3 innings from Wink. You had 2 innings from both Slayton and Chase Anderson, and 1 from Boozer. They, between all of them, had 5 combined strikeouts. That's not great, but it worked. And this, to me, just shows, 1, that the Red Sox are still capable of winning games, and for some reason they're capable of doing it on the road. But 2, this Pittsburgh Pirates squad is a joke. They started off really hot. Not good. That was smoke and mirrors. Getting swept by the Boston Red Sox at home is very embarrassing, and they should be ashamed of themselves, to be honest with you. So yeah, coming up next, it's a series against the Guardians, yet again, starting on Tuesday. They're going to be back in Cleveland. When do they come back to Fenway? This Friday. So some more road games. Maybe that's a chance. They got 3 road games against in Cleveland against the Guardians. I'm going to take them to win the series because they've been that good on the road. Who knows? Obviously, realistically, I would expect the Guardians to win that series. Not sweep, but maybe 2-1. The Red Sox were able to grab... No, they were swept by the Guardians. No. Yeah, they got 1 win. They got 1 win against the Guardians. So they were able to get 1 win. I'd expect them to do, at the very least, that again. But with how they've been performing on the road, I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow took this one out. I'm very confident in the Red Sox after this sweep. Very surprised with the Red Sox as well after this sweep. I did not expect that coming, but here we are. It's a marvelous Boston sports weekend. Before I wrap up, I do want to say first of all, I'll talk about the Revs. Before that, I'll talk about the Patriots because their draft is obviously coming up on Thursday. A lot of rumors floating around. They are open to trading the pick, but it looks like they're going to keep it. On Thursday's podcast, I will be recording before the draft, so I will give my, we'll talk about the rumors that we're hearing. I will give a preview on those guys and who I want them to take. I've been open about it on this podcast, but I will once again go over some numbers, talk about all the possible outcomes and how I would feel about them. And of course, that draft will happen on Thursday night. So then on Sunday's episode next week, I will give my full reaction to whichever pick the Patriots decide to make. Just wanted to get that out there, clear that up, because I haven't talked about the Patriots in a long while because nothing has really been going on. But obviously it's draft week, so Thursday night, it's all happening, and I'll talk about it before that. And let's close out on the Revolution, who lose another game in Toronto, 1-0. Just another uninspiring performance from the Revolution, to be honest. Let me pull up some exact numbers here. Besides the save, I will say that they got a very good save on a penalty from Ravas, who he's really turned the corner for me. I'm really happy with Henrik Ravas and the recent performances that he's had. This ball was unsavable. The goal scored by Owusu for Toronto, that wasn't going to be savable. It wasn't his fault. The defense is really letting him down. Caleb Porter is letting him down. How are you going to bench Dave Romney? How are you going to bench Thomas Shankalai? What are we doing, man? I mean, come on. This guy, Caleb Porter, his stay, I hope, and I think, is going to be very short here in Foxborough because, let's face it, these results are miserable. New England is 1-6-1 this season. And guess who they have next week? Lionel Messi, Inter Miami. They might be getting Barrero back, but even so, you think Barrero is going to help this team? No. This is disastrous, and they clearly have, they're playing with no motivation. They can't get the finishing touches. The tactics are awful in the final third. They controlled possession. They had 61% of possession. They had more shots, but none of them are going in. That's how you lose a game. Sorry. It is just an absolute lack of focus, lack of discipline, lack of energy. At least that's the way I see it from this New England Revolution team, and they should frankly be ashamed of themselves because Toronto, again, isn't the best side. I know you're on the road, but when are you going to start winning? To me, it looks like never. And to be honest, I am not going to exert that much time on this team this year unless they start really winning because it's just not worth my time. It's not worth your time as a listener to just hear me talk about how bad this team is, and it doesn't change week to week. So I will probably talk about next week's game in depth because Messi's going to be playing, but like I'm running out of things to say about this team. It's the same story every year. Lack of discipline, poor lineup management from Porter, poor tactics, and just missing Bruce Arena so much every week. That's just what it's come to with this team. It's so unfortunate how much of a fall from grace they've had after, claiming that supporter shield with a historic regular season in 2021, having a great year last year where you're battling for the 1 seed for a lot of that season, and to just be at the point that they're at now, this is very embarrassing. I'm very hopeful they can turn it around. Like I said, it's still early. Like, even though they look so bad, it's still early in the season, so maybe they can do it. And a great spot to start would be next week against Miami, a game that I will preview on Thursday. I will not be going to that game. I usually like to go to the Revs games, but that one is a little too expensive for me just to see Messi. I've seen Messi before when he was here for Copa America back in 2015. Yeah, I was there for that. True story when he was at Foxborough. I believe this is the first time that he'll be returning to Foxborough. Should be a entertaining game, to say the least. I would definitely recommend tuning in because it's Messi. The Revs are going to get battered, but it'll be a fun watch. It'll be fun to watch the GOAT in action. Anyway, I'm not going to harp on this too long because this was a great weekend. Celtics win, Bruins win, Red Sox sweep. Boston is 2-0 in the playoffs this year, combined between the Celtics and the Bruins. What's not to love besides the Revolution? Who cares about those guys? Thanks so much, as always, for listening to Title Town Talk. My name is Jackson Tolliver. Let's hope that I log back on Thursday with some more wins to report from the Bruins and the Celtics. I believe the Bruins will have 2 by then, so we could be looking at a 3-0 lead. Fingers crossed, and the Celtics will just have 1 more. Hopefully they can take care of business again on Wednesday at home. For now, go Celtics, go Bruins, go Red Sox. I'm Jackson Tolliver. I'll see you on Thursday.